Hello and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you are watching NewsX World. Israel launched a massive air assault on Iran early Friday in Operation Rising Lion. The Israeli military deployed 200 fighter jets targeting around 100 sites across Iran. The strikes focused on nuclear facilities, missile factories, and top military commanders. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the operation very successful and vowed to continue until Iran's nuclear threat is eliminated. Here's what the Israeli Prime Minister has said.
אנחנו אחרי מכת פתיחה מאוד מוצלחת. אנחנו פגענו בפיקוד הבכיר, פגענו במדענים בכירים שמקדמים את פיתוח פצצות האטום, פגענו במתקני גרעין.
The Israeli Defense Forces confirmed the deaths of senior Iranian figures, including Armed Forces Chief Mohammad Bagheri and Revolutionary Guards leader Hossein Salami. Over 100 drones launched by Iran towards Israel were intercepted. The military destroyed dozens of Iranian radars and missile launchers during the strikes. Here's what the Israeli army spokesperson has said.
כעת אני יכול לאשר כי בתקיפה חוסלו בכירי ההנהגה הביטחונית של המשטר האיראני. הרמטכ"ל האיראני בקרי, מפקד משמרות המהפכה סלמי וראש מפקדת החירום רשיד. יחד איתם חוסלו מפקדים נוספים עליהם נדווח בהמשך.
Iran condemned the attacks as a violation of international law and labeled them a declaration of war. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi blamed the United States for backing Israel and vowed a firm response. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei swiftly appointed new military chiefs to replace those killed. Iran's state TV reported civilian casualties, including women and children. However, key oil refineries remained undamaged. The United Nations nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, expressed grave concern. IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi called for restraint and warned nuclear facilities must never be attacked. Israel's military announced the end of the nationwide shelter alert for its citizens, signaling confidence amid ongoing tensions. Airspace closures and flight reroutes across the region reflect the volatility, with both sides on high alert. The situation remains extremely tense. The world watches closely as the conflict escalates with no clear end in sight.
בשעות האחרונות, איראן שיגרה מעל 100 כלי טיס בלתי מאוישים משטחה לעבר שטח מדינת ישראל. כלל מערכי ההגנה פועלים ליירוט האיומים. חשוב לשמור על הנחיות פיקוד העורף, הן מצילות חיים. זהו אירוע שונה ממה שחווינו עד כה. עוד צפויות לנו שעות קשות. יש לגלות חוסן ואורך רוח.
Now we have guest Peter Baum. He's a foreign editor from Weekly Blitz. He's joining us live from London. Peter, how significant are Israel's airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, and what does this involvement of 200 jets signals about its military objectives?
Yes, it's truly significant. Make no mistake about this. Now, obviously the news is coming thick and fast as we speak, and I'm gathering that this operation had been planned well in advance with Mossad agents, Israeli commando units, and internal Iranian opposition groups all combining together to infiltrate Iran weeks in advance of yesterday's attack. They were covertly placing precision-guided missiles and munitions, surface-to-air missile batteries, I should say, and assembling explosive drones close to cruise and ballistic missile launch sites. Now, though the purpose for doing that was to ensure that Iran would be unable to reply and to activate cruise and ballistic missiles in response to the Israeli attack, which has done significant damage to Iranian military sites, Iranian military personnel, and indeed the Natanz nuclear factor, from which it is doubtful that Iran will be able to respond in a manner that they would have wished to respond to after these attacks. It's been a devastating blow for the IRGC, and the fact that they were taken so unaware, and the fact that Israel was able to infiltrate Iran weeks before the attacks took place indicates that the regime is militarily not as on the ball as it might have been. Something else that is happening as we speak, and that is I've noticed that the exiled leader, the Shah of Iran, is clearly making a play for political influence again. And I suppose the Israelis are hoping that the opposition groups within Iran and the damage caused to the IRGC will be sufficiently enough indeed to maybe overthrow the totalitarian theocrats currently ruling Iran. Make no mistake, the damage has been significant. It's doubtful whether Iran will be able to reply in a way that they would have wished to during the war with Hamas, let's say, when Iran attacked Israel after Israel attacked Iran some months ago.
Thank you, Peter. You will stay with us. Now we have another guest who is joined, Lord Rami Ranger. He's a member of the House of Lords of the UK, joining us live from London. Lord Rami Ranger, so what do we know about Iran's claim, Israel's claim that Iran's nearing a point of no return in terms of its nuclear program, and how credible is this assessment according to you?
You know, first of all, I fail to understand the obsession of Iran to have a nuclear activities or energy or whatever, when they have enough oil and there are so many other resources to fulfill their energy need. The whole world is suspicious of Iran, America particularly, and then to carry on with this kind of operation and without the inspection from the international bodies creates a very big suspicion. And you know, Israel has been threatened many times by Iran that they will demolish, they will destroy Iran, and this for Iran, the Israelis are very wary of the motives of Iranian leaders. They're totalitarian leaders. They use religion to mobilize people, and unfortunately, Israel has to defend its right to existence. Number two, this is a very tragic escalation of war. As you know, there are no winners in war because war brings a lot of repercussion. First of all, we are now in a global economy. If anything happens to any oil-producing country, that will affect the entire world because the prices will rocket, inflation will go up, and many people will lose their livelihood and jobs as a result of this extra cost which is brought to bear upon the world. Number two, the other thing is that all these terrorist groups like Hezbollah, you know, ISIS, and you name it, in Syria, in Lebanon, in many countries, from Palestine, they will spring into action and they will start becoming even more active than before. So that is another danger of radicalization in the region and beyond. And thirdly, escalation does not bring stability in the world economics. We will all be affected because there are very important trade routes, are very close to Iran, and that can also disrupt the supply of essential product to the countries which are depending on import. So I personally believe, and I appeal to the leader, the world is now totally different. There is no point having confrontation. The world should move with collaboration and cooperation. One should be transparent, clear, and one should be able to invite inspectors to check that their intentions are honorable, they are genuinely for energy lead, if they are open, transparent, the world will support them. But to do clandestine oppression and where you also threaten the existence of Israel, and on top of that you have a nuclear program, and then of course Israelis are worried and they have to do everything to defend their existence, having suffered persecution during the, as you know, Second World War. And therefore, my only concern is that we do not have these groups, China, Russia, and Iran becoming even more stronger, and then, pitching one group against the other. And then, unfortunately, the leaders have bigger ego than they understand the cause or the importance of working together. Working against each other has never brought anybody any benefit. We have seen that in India, Pakistan for the last 70 years, and they have not learned their lesson, and they keep repeating the same mistake again and again. The idea is now to work hand in hand with the world community, and any suspicion should be put to bed immediately by inviting international observers and making sure that their program does not cause alarm to anyone. So it will not only affect people of Israel, it will affect the people of Iran even more. They're already suffering sanctions, and by working together, the sanction can be removed. The condition of people of Iran can improve significantly. So therefore, it's time for the leader to show statesmanship and put their differences aside for the greater good of humanity and mankind. Because at the end of the day, we are interdependent on each other. If one does anything wrong, it will have a ripple effect throughout the world. So that is a very sad day yesterday when 200 fighter planes attacked Iran, and significant damage was caused. And I don't know whether Iran has the capacity to retaliate, but if they do, they will find that the Americans will be joining in. And then I do not know whether the Russian will come to their aid, which I doubt very much, but the American will certainly come to the aid of Israel, because it is their greatest ally. So appeal to the world leader, please restrain, calm, do not escalate, because there are no benefit in escalating war. It costs a huge amount of money, and you're all developing country. You can ill afford to spend money on these ammunition and arms and drones and whatever. Use that money for the development of ordinary people. So that is my appeal to all the people.
Thank you very much, Lord Rami Ranger. He's a member of the House of Lords from the UK. Now we have a breaking news. Global leaders are reacting sharply to Israel's massive air assault on Iran. The United States says it had no role in the attack. President Donald Trump warned Iran must never acquire nuclear weapons. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stressed U.S. forces will be protected. The UK is calling for an immediate de-escalation. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer urged a return to diplomacy. The Kremlin condemned the sharp escalation between Israel and Iran, expressing serious concern over this conflict. Russian state media reported German Chancellor Friedrich Merz urged both Israel and Iran to avoid any further escalation. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas urged all sides to exercise restraint and prioritize diplomacy to prevent further escalation in the Middle East. African Union and Afghanistan also condemned these attacks. Turkey and Saudi Arabia strongly condemned Israel's actions. Qatar called the strikes a threat to regional peace. Indonesia condemned the strikes, warning they risk regional escalation. Czech Republic expressed understanding of Israel's need to deter nuclear threats. France called for restraint and upheld Israel's right to defend itself. Pakistan labeled the assault unjustified and unacceptable, with Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar calling it a brazen violation. China said it is deeply concerned and warned of severe consequences. Beijing urged all parties to act in ways that promote peace and avoid escalation.
中方高度关注以色列袭击伊朗，对有关行动可能带来的严重后果深感担忧。中方反对侵犯伊朗主权、安全和领土完整，反对激化矛盾、扩大冲突。
The UN, Oman, Australia, and New Zealand are all urging restraint as tensions continue to escalate. Japan strongly condemned Israel's strikes on Iran, calling for immediate restraint. Tokyo urged all parties to avoid further escalation and protect regional stability. Here's what the Japanese foreign minister has said.
中東地域の平和と安定は我が国にとっても極めて重要であり、我が国はすべての関係者に対して最大限の自制を求めるとともに、事態の沈静化を強く。
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte called for urgent de-escalation following Israel's strikes on Iran, emphasizing that reducing tensions is crucial to maintaining stability and preventing wider regional conflict. Here's what Mark Rutte has said.
Allies within NATO are really navigating this crisis. Everybody is focused on de-escalating it. The US, of course, is working on that with other allies. NATO not being involved as an alliance because it is really focusing on the Euro-Atlantic, but obviously NATO allies very much involved to make sure that the conflict is de-escalated as soon as possible.
Now we have another breaking news. A senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Ali Shamkhani, was wounded in Israel's deadly attack on Iran today. State media reported the assault targeted multiple sites, killing top military figures. Iran condemned the strike as a violation of international law and vowed a strong response. The situation remains tense as the conflict escalates. The Israeli military targeted the underground section of Iran's Natanz nuclear facility. This included a multi-story enrichment hall with centrifuges, electrical rooms, and vital infrastructure, severely damaging Iran's nuclear capabilities. Now we have guests joining us for this discussion. Ross Feingold, he's a political risk analyst. He's joining us from Taipei. Thank you, Ross, for joining us today. What does this unprecedented exchange of drone and airstrikes tell us about the strategic thresholds of Israel and Iran, and now they are willing to cross? And what are the risks involved in this?
Well, it's clear that Israel was very serious going back many years when Israel said that they would not tolerate Iran having nuclear weapons, and they would take military action to prevent that from happening. They really meant it, and Israel has been very clear about this for a number of years. Iran most likely took Israel's threat seriously, but it's clear, at least from today's news, that Israel's military had superior capabilities than Iran, and Iran was not able to prevent this air assault. Going forward, we have to see what kind of retaliation Iran takes. Any attack from Iran, whether by drones or missiles, that causes injury to Israeli civilians would probably be met with a very fierce response from Israel. So Iran has to be very careful here. Are they going to leave it be, or are they going to try and retaliate in a very dramatic way, or maybe in a more symbolic way, such as targeting with minimal number of missiles Israeli military installations? So in a way, this is very, very similar to the diplomacy efforts of the United States in recent months with Iran, where the decision was up to Iran to accept the offer of the United States to enrich uranium outside Iran by an international consortium, uranium that could be used for civilian nuclear power plants, and Iran rejected that deal. And now the ball's in Iran's court. Are they going to retaliate, and how will they retaliate against Israel? So at the moment, that's also in Iran's court.
And Ross, I want to build on to this. Where does this leave United States? Can Washington continue to distance itself from this this conflict or the raising tensions between them, or will it be forced to intervene somewhere?
Well, we know from various reporting that President Trump really didn't want Israel to take this action while bilateral negotiations were still ongoing between the United States and Iran. But Prime Minister Netanyahu made the decision to safeguard his country and decided that now was the best time to take action. So President Trump is probably unhappy about Israel's decision, but ultimately the bonds between Israel and the United States are very strong. I don't think we'll see too much criticism. There might be some, but ultimately President Trump will probably stand with Israel.
Thank you very much, Ross Feingold, for joining us. We now have another breaking news. Israeli media reports strike on Iran's Tabriz military airport. Footage shows smoke rising near airport following the attack. This latest strike comes amid escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. Officials have not yet confirmed damage or casualties regarding this attack. Fresh blasts in northwest Iran killed 3 people. State TV reports several others injured in strikes on East Azerbaijan. Explosions follow Israeli air raid on multiple sites. Tensions rise as casualties mount in escalating conflict between Iran and Israel. Authorities monitor situation closely. Now we are going back to our guest discussion on this topic. Peter Baum, he's a foreign editor in Weekly Blitz. He's joining us live from London. Peter, do you expect major powers like Russia or China to weigh in diplomatically, or will they exploit the chaos for their own strategic gain?
Yes, they will undoubtedly weigh in diplomatically, but there's not a lot that they can do other than get the usual United Nations anti-Israel agenda to play for the days and weeks ahead. Russia engaged in the war with Ukraine, which she herself never expected to last so long, and having had all her military assets wrecked in Syria, are really in no position to do anything other than to condemn Israel at the United Nations. China, paradoxically, I think is quite pleased of what the Israelis have done. It further weakens Russian influence in the area and will certainly enhance China's influence, as those who previously, decades ago, sought Russia's political and military and diplomatic assistance will now turn to China, because Russia is no longer a huge player in the Middle East as she once was. Remember, after the fall of Assad, Israel virtually destroyed all Russian assets that had been supplied to Assad, ships, aeroplanes, military equipment, etc. And Russia is no longer able to have the kind of influence it once had. But China will certainly make hay of this. I expect China to wield her influence amongst all those condemning the Israeli action. May I also suggest one other thing that's clear. Although the Sunni Arab nations have been quick to condemn the Israeli action in Iran, there is no doubt that they are fully supporting Israel's actions. They have allowed their airspace to be used by Israel to go and attack Iran. Jordan is in a very difficult position because she has a large Palestinian population, but nevertheless, Jordan is no friend to the Palestinians and has certainly allowed Israel to use its airspace during these attacks. The United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, similarly enemies of Iran, but have to be very diplomatic, and naturally we see them condemning the Israel attack, but secretly they are quite supportive and pleased of what has gone on overnight.
Now, thank you. Now on to you, Lord Rami Ranger. How will this escalation impact Netanyahu's image and political position, as you've seen the reactions, international reactions pouring in right now, and also the increasing instability and his stance within Israel?
Well, the superpowers, as you know, they always support one or the other. But this time, scenario is slightly different because Russia is engaged in Ukraine war and its resources are depleted. He doesn't have the economic muscle strength. And besides, China might, China is can, but end of the day, they will only supply arms. They're not going to supply any other support. By giving arms cost even more than even somebody give you a free tank to maintain and to run those tanks cost even more. So therefore, Iranian leadership have to show maturity and not to become a pawn in the fight, of these superpowers. And also they should worry about their own people because the people are suffering for the last so many years, and they're beautiful people, and they've been led down by their leadership. You cannot oppress people either by state or by religion. People are the biggest asset of a nation. They should be given freedom to develop, express themselves, and to realize their potential. When people rise, their nation rise with them. So therefore, I urge, that's all I can urge. I don't have the power to make them act the way I want them to, but at the same time, we can appeal to these leaders that it's time to change the attitude to change the result. The attitude was hostility, and that will bring more hostility. But if we are to reach out to each other, let's sit down, cooperate with one another for the greater good of your citizens, I think the world will be a much better place. But having groups only for one purpose, to destroy one another, can never bring any benefit to anyone. We have seen that in many parts of the world where people have not reached out. I mean, Israel has made friendship with Egypt, and they are doing very well already. So therefore, the world is now changing. There is no point, because your action will have a ripple effect in the world, and it will also come back to affect you in a bad way. So therefore, de-escalation is the way forward. And I think I appeal to Iran leaders to be more transparent about their nuclear policy. If their people have suspicion, allay their suspicion, bring them home, show them around what they are up to, and they have no sinister motive, because the world is worried why Iran is obsessed with the nuclear energy or power or whatever. But they have to be effort have to be made to put the mind of people at rest, that this is nothing sinister and there is no hidden agenda to attack Israel or any other country, because end of the day, if you are threatened, you have to defend yourself, and everybody has a right to defend. And unfortunately, the leaders do not understand that if you are hostile to one, you also damage your psyche of your public people, and they become, warmongers. So they do not develop wholesomely to benefit humanity. So therefore, I think it's time to have a new approach to the world order, and the world order should be cooperation and collaboration.
Thank you. Now we have another breaking news. Iran says at least 95 people were wounded in Israel's massive airstrikes. State media reports women and children among the injured as rescue operations continue in multiple cities. Tehran condemns the attack, labeling it a violation of its sovereignty amid escalating tensions. Hezbollah says Israel's strikes on Iran threaten to ignite the region. The group adds it will not initiate an attack but remains ready if conflict escalates. Now we are joined by guest Ross Feingold. He's a political risk analyst. He's joining us live from Taipei. Thank you, Ross, for staying with us. How might this affect normalization of the ties between Saudi Arabia and Iran, which was already fragile?
Well, publicly, Saudi Arabia is going to criticize Israel's action, but as we've been discussing in this panel, it's probably the truth that Saudi Arabia is very happy that Israel did this. Saudi Arabia is no fan of Iran having nuclear weapons. In fact, they're very much against it, and they take a lot of steps, investment in their own defense, to prepare for a possible war with Iran. So publicly, we'll see some criticism from Saudi Arabia. It probably won't accelerate cooperation between the two countries, though, because everybody knows where Saudi Arabia actually stands on this question.
Thank you very much to all our guests, Peter Baum, Lord Rami Ranger, and Rose Feingold, for joining us and sharing your expertise with us and our audience. Well, that's all we have time for. We will continue to bring more news updates from around the world.